Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of Fantastic Female Fridays. My name is Susan HayesCulleton, and I am delighted to be here with you today to have a really interesting discussion around where does the world's spending power get invested. Now, I have to say, over the last couple of months since we have been doing this show, it's been really interesting to hear your thoughts on a variety of perspectives. And the last episode focusing on gender diversity and its impact on the bottom line. It's amazing how many times that I've heard people talk about that and refer to it since. And the thing is in that episode, we really had a deep dive into it, but particularly we looked at it from an investable point of view. So, first of all, like I always do, I'd love to hear where people are tuning in from. So, can I ask you all? I'm looking at my screen up over here. Can I ask you to please chat in there and just tell me what part of the world that you are joining us from? Typically, we have been seeing people from the US and from Canada. We've also been seeing people in the UK. We've seen you across Europe. So it would just be really lovely to hear where you're tuning in from. And I just want to tell you exactly how you can do that. So what you can do is open up YouTube and click on the chat button. Obviously, you're on YouTube already if you're watching this here, apologies. But just click on the chat button and I'm going to pop on over there and I'm going to check this too. So if you go on over there, oh, Julie's here with us. Hello, Julie. Really great to see you here, that you're tuning in here from London. That's super. Zinduang is here from Hong Kong. Jake is here from Ottawa. Jerry, hello from Chicago. Jerry, would you believe that was where my husband, Ardla, and I went on our honeymoon. David is here from Tennessee. Garanka is from India. Yenet is from Hong Kong. Judy's here from Vancouver, Canada. Hello from the US. Hello there, Yume. Great to see you. Pipe is from Orlando. Hello, Maria from Maine. Great to have you back with us, Maria. Joey is here from New York City. Boston is here from Boston. New York, California, Ukraine. Okay, I don't think we've had somebody here from the Ukraine before. And Matt is also here in, I think that is Connecticut. Wonderful. Great to hear that you're all here and that we're all happy to have this conversation here today. So, a couple of things. First of all, as any of you who's been here before, like Julie and like Maria, we always love to have people interact with us. So please do keep your questions coming. I see Anna's here from Dublin. John is here from New Zealand. Good morning. And Curtis is here as well. So please do keep your questions coming. And we love to have your interactions. Share your experiences with us. Share your thoughts with us. Share the stocks that you're interested in looking at. Anything else like that, I will keep a very close eye. The reason I keep looking up there is because that is where it comes up. Jerry says, wow, you did pick a good big city for your honeymoon. Yes, we did. I have to say, Chicago was a great place and we have lots of great memories and hopefully we'll be back there, Jerry. I'm sure we will. Okay, now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today we are going to take a really good look at the consumption power that happens through the pockets of women, as well as the pockets that women influence. And then what we're going to do is look at recent occurrences that have happened so that we can understand the impact of those changes. And then we're also going to look at who are the companies that do a great job in here. And then finally, what we're then going to look at is what stocks, and I've one particular ETF as well for you, I always do, where this theme can then be investable. Okay, that is what we're going to do today. For anybody that's new to the show, as I can see there, a couple of people are tuning in from parts of the world that we haven't had before. So for those of you who are new, let me tell you what Fantastic Female Fridays is about. First of all, my name is Susan. I'm the host for the show and I have been here right from the beginning. And Fantastic Female Fridays came about when I had a conversation with some of the team at VectorVest. By the way, I have to give a shout out. Thank you so much indeed, as always, to Joey, the producer of the show. He's always fabulous and always makes sure that everything is working well and he thinks of everything. So thanks a million to you, Joey. And also want to give a shout out, of course, to Clay. Clay was the person that I originally had this conversation with, as well as some of the other members of the VectorVest team. So what we did was round about March 2020. Remember that month? I think we all do. So during that time frame, we had a chat around, what could we do at VectorVest? What could we do in order to meet the needs of female investors all the more? And when we thought about who the female investor is, we also thought about who the female investor is not. In other words, who are the people who would like to be at the investing arena from a public stock market point of view that aren't. But it also then went one step further when we said, what are the themes? What are the investment themes out there that are suitable for anybody who is interested in investing and maximizing their returns and in managing their risk accordingly? What are the themes out there? What are the business and investable cases out there that might be of interest to everybody? And that is the purpose of this show. So you're all super, super welcome. And really, Kathy, fantastic. Delighted that you're here as well. Kathy's tuning in here from Minnesota. I see here that the VectorVest people are saying thank you. You all absolutely deserve it indeed. So can I ask you, if you like what you see, we'd love if you like the video. Please do. If you like this video, we'd love if you do that and if you subscribe to the channel, because there's lots of great content that happens here. There is Trending Thursdays with Glenn. Lots of you who are used to being here on the VectorVest show, the various VectorVest channel, will know Glenn runs Trending Thursdays as well as many others. And of course, my other show is the Tech and ESG show. Our next episode of that focuses specifically on property trends, sustainable property trends, and how they are investable too. Okay, so that's lots. Hi Margaret, great to have you here. Thanks indeed so much for being here. And I see Kobe is here from Israel. Geez, we're very globally diverse today. Love it. So if you could, please do like the video. We'd love if you did, because then as other people are looking into this theme, we would be delighted if they could come across this content, and then we can share them with you, as well as I mentioned, your thoughts. Okay, so let's get right settled in here. And I'm just going to bring up this for you. Okay, so I just want to start, so as you can see, sometimes I need to get out of my own way there. So of course, welcome to Fantastic Female Fridays. And let me now take you through a couple of the statistics underneath there as well. Now, Rick, you have been around here long enough to know that absolutely, guys are always welcome to Fantastic Female Fridays. We're only delighted to have you all here. And we're totally interested in hearing what you have to say as well. As I say, some of these themes are expansive right across the spectrum here. So, right, let's start off here by thinking about the type of influence that women have over purchasing. Okay, so let me just move over here. Oh, sorry, moved in the wrong direction, so that you can see that women drive 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing. Now you might say, how could that be? Thanks, Rick. I know it's a bit of humor and we love it. How could actually that be? How could women determine 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing? Right. Let me set a little bit of context here, okay? Here's where I'm going to go back to the camera just so that you and I can have a little bit of a chat around this, okay? When it comes to looking at GDP, so GDP is the way in which you can count up all of the amount of goods and services produced in the world and who pays for them. When we look at GDP, it looks like women provide 37% of that. Does that mean men work harder? Does that mean that men spend more? What exactly does that mean? Well, you see, the thing is that I am an economist. And when I looked at that, I thought something's off. Women represent 50% of the population, broadly speaking. And yet, how is it that women represent only 37% of GDP? And I found the answer. I did some research into the gender pay gap and I looked into this. And the reality is that what's not included in GDP is gross domestic product. Specifically, the equation is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. But you know what's over here? You know what's not counted? Is the unpaid work done in the world. If you were to add in all of the work done in households and in unpaid work and in volunteers and everything else, then you would actually have a genuine reflection of the world's output. However, if you do actually count in all of the unpaid work that's done in the world, imagine what happens is that we are at 50-50. The thing is that women represent 75% of the unpaid work done in the world. That's why, okay? So that figure actually kind of throws it out a little bit. But it still doesn't explain how, as I showed you there, how women drive 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing. And that is because of the amount of influence that happens as well. So think about an amount of money that is generated within household. Okay, just think about okay, so independent of who earns it, that's not the point. Independent of who earns it, let's think about who spends it. Because then if we bring all of that money into the core, let's think about what people spend on. Okay, well, there's going to be, let's say, mortgage, or there's going to be rent. Okay, then there's going to be groceries. Then there's going to be, let's say, utility bills. Then there is going to be, let's say, spending on clothes, right? So all of those things are needs. We need to be warm. We need to be fed. We need to be clothed. We need electricity. Need. And then we move into what we want. So we want, for example, holidays. We want a car. Some of you could say that could be in between a need and a want, but you get my point. Now, if we go through all of those, particularly in the household, or maybe where there's a family of more than 2 people, now let's think about who drives most of that expenditure. There you go. It's women. It typically can be women who decide on the grocery shopping. It can be women who decide on shopping for, let's say, a car. It can also come down to it when you decide on where people are going to go on holidays, it can be a woman as well. So when you take all of these things into consideration, that is how women control or influence that spending. So what we're not talking about today is where the earnings come from, because, as I mentioned, that is where men have the majority, and that is because there is a disproportionate amount of earning that is done by men when it comes to paid hours. And look, we can talk about all of that all day long. We can absolutely do that, and I'd love to talk to you about that, and I can take you through the research on it. But the point I'm making is that a lot of people will confuse the word's spending power with the word's earning power. And believe you me, when it comes to spending power, definitely women are topping the poll. Tracy says, oh, this is live. How nice. Great to have you here, Tracy. It's absolutely live. And also I see Mayor is here as well. You're very welcome, Mayor. We're delighted to have you. Okay, so I'm now going to bring you over, and let's look into the sectors, right? Let's look at the sectors of where this spending is happening. Okay, I'm going to bring you over here now again. Okay, now let me just go on here to the expenditure. So 91%, right? 91% of new homes, women drive those purchases. 66% of PCs, women drive those purchases. 92% of vacations, again, women drive those purchases. 80% of healthcare, women drive those purchases. By the way, vacations. Do you remember a couple of months ago, those of you who are here with me, do you remember when I interviewed Mary McKenna, CEO of Tour America? Remember when she told us about the future of travel? I invested in Royal Caribbean as a result of her, and I have to say, a very, very happy one with that. So Zin says, my wife certainly does all the spending. There you go. That's where you need to be investing, Zin. Then we also have OTC pharmaceuticals. OTC is over the counter. Food, 93% of purchases of food is driven by women. Let's think about that. 89% of bank accounts and 65% of new cars. And this came, so you can see the source there as well on my slides, okay? And this is what gives us the clues around where we can look for the companies that are doing really well here. And we can also look at here as regards where the investable themes are arising. Okay. Now, of course, the other thing as well that we could examine. Now, I want to do this on a different episode where I really do it in detail. But I just want to let you know as well is that it's really interesting to look at the differences between how women in different cultures manage that spend as well. This goes back here to using when you're joining us from Asia, how that might be different, for example, for the consumption that's driven in the US or where I am here in Europe either. All of that can make a big difference too. So on that note, I am just going to give you the annual consumption spending and just break it down here. I also do want to say to you as well, I just want to give a big shout out to Demi Yume, who is the researcher for the show. Thank you very much indeed, Yume. This is the first show that you've been researching on, and you've done a super job of gathering some insights together, and it's really great to work with you, and thank you. So can we just all give a little wave there to Yume? She is joining us from Maryland, and I believe that she's on the show here today. So just want to make sure that she's feeling the love here at Fantastic Female Fridays. So you can see here that the annual consumer spending in 2019, for example, in Asia was 13.4 trillion. Yes, trillion with a T. And there is it's really interesting to see just the different cultural elements of that, as I say, which I will discuss at a future episode. You can see then in Australia, we have 300 billion. In Canada, 456 billion. Now, I better slide to the left here. You can see there in Europe, we've got 4.8 trillion. In Germany, we've got 6. Yeah. In France, then they do subsequent subsets. The UK, you can see down over here, UK is at 501 billion and the US is $6.4 trillion, roundabout the half of Asia. Bear in mind as well, that when we look at Asia, we are looking at an entire region. When we are looking at the States, we are looking at a country within it. Of course, I know that the US is a very big one. Yeah, but my point is that in Asia, that you there would have China, you've India, and you have all of the really, really populated spaces. Thank you. Oh, that's lovely. Zin, also Anna and Julie are all saying, sending lovely messages all around there as well. So thank you again, Yume. So as you can see here, globally, women performed an estimated 31.8 trillion in consumer spending in 2019. Now, here's a problem for you. Here's a problem. Is that for a moment, I'm just going to take you off the stock market, right? Let's just think about something else here for a moment. And that is equity from a private equity point of view. For those of you that aren't familiar, this show is designed for everybody who's interested in this area, as opposed to those who know everything, and where I'm trying to upskill all of you. My point here that I want to bring you is that this is a place for education where no matter what question you ask, it is totally welcome, and we're all here to teach each other. But I want to tell you about the difference between public equity and private equity. So public equity is when I can buy a stock that is listed on the stock market. So that can be, for example, Colgate or Coca-Cola or Disney. But private equity is if you were to approach VectorVest in order to buy a piece of the company directly, and you were to approach the shareholders to buy from them. So, of course, the home of private equity investing, as I'm sure that you're all aware, is, of course, Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley is where I might, if I was going to set up a business and I was going to approach investors directly in Silicon Valley, then I would be wondering who I could sell part of my company to in exchange for money, of course, as well as maybe access to their networks or to their networking, etc. Predominantly, the venture capital world, the private equity world, is dominated by men. Now, is that a problem? Not necessarily a problem, but it does show a lack of diversity. But here is the issue, is just look at that statistic there again, is that globally, okay, my camera's disappearing there, globally, women performed an estimated 31.8 trillion in consumer spending. So when it comes to private equity investment, the question is, if there are not more female investors, are the investors truly understanding their market? And that is where you and me, by buying companies that are listed on the stock market, we can analyze this idea and we can question it, and we can ask the question over which companies are making the best inroads. So the other thing as well, of course, that we do need to remember, and I'm also seeing here, Yume is definitely there. Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Gorakanth, who's tuning in from India. Lovely to see your comments there as well. So the question is that how is this being considered? How is this being managed? And how is this being measured? So let me bring you back to this, right? Is that women are reshaping social influence. You see, women talk a lot. By the way, I certainly fall in under this category. Women talk a lot, but they talk an awful lot to each other. And what they are particularly good at doing is sharing insights and recommendations with each other as well. So often, just like I've been mentioning there, women can serve as the gateway to people in their households. So they will manage the shopping. They will manage where people will go on vacation. They will determine the type of computer that's bought, because they are often the chief procurement officer of the household. So that is how they can have, outsized influence. But the second thing is that they spend a significant amount of time and money buying on behalf of others. So I thought about that, right? I thought about it. Michael has a tongue-in-cheek comment here about Silicon Valley. I guess that's why it's so dry. Having been there, actually, I have to say, Michael, it's I found it to be a little bit different than that. But good point. So the thing is here is, how is it that women can spend time and money on behalf of others? And actually think about it. A lot of women are caregivers. And that can come from whether it's the next generation, whether they're taking care of their kids, or like I had a call with a couple of people earlier on today, also their dogs as well. They can be taking care of pets. They can also be taking care of an older generation. They can also be doing that, whether it's their parents, whether it's their parents-in-law. And then, of course, you also have other people around them as well, whether it's siblings or friends or cousins or colleagues. So because of that, because of the caregiving nature that, remember, women again they take care of 75% of the unpaid work done in the world. Now, I'm not saying about how much of this needs to change or anything. I'm just pointing to the fact that they are influencers long before we heard of Instagram. They are definitely spending time and money buying on behalf of others due to the caregiving nature that they simply assume, whether it's by choice or whether it's by culture, it's because of that. And then the other thing as well is that women tend to be the gateway to social and business networks. Now, personally, I'm involved in a variety of networks, both locally in Ireland, as well as digitally around the world, as well as physically. I'm part of a lot of international business networks as well. So when you think about Pinterest, when you think about Instagram, of course, that's owned by Facebook. When you think about WhatsApp, when you think about that, I find personally I'm in lots and lots of WhatsApp groups. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. But I'm in a lot of these conversations for sure. And I'm not a parent. Talk to any parent about how many WhatsApp groups they're involved in, whether it's for sports or for school, particularly since lockdown. And that number increases dramatically. So the thing is that the proliferation of both social media and private social media. So I would consider public social media being your Instagram, your Twitter. I love Twitter. You all know that. I love Twitter. But when you take into consideration all of that, so you take into consideration public social media as well as private social media, like WhatsApp, this is where women's voices have been absolutely amplified. Now, the question is, what companies are meeting all of that demand? Before we get to any of that though, I'd love to hear in the chat, what do you think so far? So based on what I've been telling you, and I'm talking about the macro figures here. Let me go back to the full camera scene. What do you think so far? Who is responsible for most of the consumption in terms of spending, not actually using the goods and services that are spent? But when it comes to you, what happens in your household? Who is responsible for the spending based on groceries? Who decides on where people go on holidays? Now that this is all back on our radar again, who decides on these things? Who determines if this is going to happen? Well, let me hear about that first. I'm just going to keep an eye over here in the chat and let's just hear what you have to say. And I am just going to pop on over here and I'm going to keep an eye on the ideas that you have. So who is the person that drives the consumption in the household that you grew up in, or maybe that you live in right now? Who makes those decisions? Do you agree with the sentiment that I have been showing you so far, of which is backed by lots and lots of research for sure from a macro point of view? And also if you have cultural references, that would also be interesting as well to see. I'm just going to give you a moment here. So MM says the ladies, and tell us a little bit more about that, MM. So do you find, is it in the context that I was saying, is it in the household? So Yume says my mom. Yeah, okay. Let me see. Julie says, well, you're the chief of ear. Okay. So I'm wondering, always, Anna says also, always my mom. Oh, haha. Okay. Now I understand, Julie. Julie says the chief of everything in your solo household. Julie, I get the sense now that you could run a nation all the same. Michael says, yes, dear, I am right. Thanks, Michael. Good answer. So I would, it's just interesting there that a lot of people there are talking about their mothers as being the people involved. And that is what seems to be like very, very much the case. Certainly in the house, right. So MM says my wife, my mother-in-law and my daughter. So MM, what do you do? Is the question. I'm wondering. Surrounded by women there. It sounds like there's great care being taken of you. Okay. So it seems to be that we're on a similar sort of track here. But the question then is, which companies are the ones that are serving the needs of women very well? Because I remember researching a different theme a while ago. It's a good while ago now, and the theme that I was examining that I was asked to look at was the spending power of older people, because that I could take you on another journey, by the way. And what I noticed in that one is that despite the fact that you had older people who were very much key drivers of spending in the economy, is that there wasn't a whole lot of marketing being done to serve them. There's certainly, even let's say in terms of restaurants, menus having small writing, that, you know, where many older people would have needed glasses, for example, where just the user experience or the interaction between those who were serving an older generation and those and the needs of the older generation weren't quite being met. So that's the next space that I want to take you into, is who does this really well? Who does this really well, and where are those investable cases? So let me take a look over here now, and let me see. Kathy says, you know it, I'm the president and chief of it all. Yes, Kathy, but it sounds like, again, immensely capably. Margaret says, it was my mum too. Julie says, growing up, my dad mostly earned and my mum gave him a weekly allowance. Julie's sisters can do it for themselves. And then MM says, military and pharmacy. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good to hear that indeed. Yeah, well, I'll just tell you, certainly in the household where I grew up, is that my dad would have been predominantly responsible for the food shopping, but definitely Mum was running, like she was like the CEO of the household, I have to say. Now, the world that I inhabit, and when I think about the household that where now it's Ardal and Ardal, my husband, you all know him, don't you, at this stage? You've all met him at this stage if you've been here on the show. Is that I would say that it's probably far more equally split, because I don't do most of what Mum would have done in our household. I'm the CEO of what I'm doing now, so therefore I'm much more so that way. But I'm also somebody who knows that he's more than well able for it, and probably better than me in certain areas. However, the finances side of things, yep, kind of my domain. But that's because I'm a CFA, I'm a chartered financial analyst, somebody that really love a good spreadsheet. Those of you that have been here as well, you'll know that as well. So for all of those reasons, like I would say that we probably split things much more equally. So I'm actually, my household today is probably a bit more so of an anomaly. Did I say that correctly? I did. Okay. However, definitely in terms of social media and so on, yeah, I would be pretty vocal, and that would happen. Now, I want to show you a couple of things. I want to first show you, this is something that you may as well picked, right? And she picked it because she thought it was funny, right? Now, I agree with her, it's funny, and probably you'll all agree with it, but I have another thing that I want to show you about this. So look at what she wanted me to show you here. No explanation required. How men do shopping, the start, get what they need, finish. How women do shopping, start, bzz, and finish. Now, the thing is, by the way, I'd love to hear in the chat there, how many of you agree with that graphic? How many of you would agree that that is the way it all happens? Let's just take a look and see. Now, let's just take the pulse of your reaction here. And let's see now what you think. I'm just going to see whether this is what you would agree with. Now, I am a person, because there is just Ardal and I am somebody that can be more like the top graphic, because I generally know what I'm looking for. And I mean, to be honest, there's probably another graphic under here which refers to how things happen on e-commerce as well. By the way, we had a really good look, and we delved right into the e-commerce theme back in December. That episode was where we put a spotlight on retail. Now, interesting. So Margaret says, this is so true. Ha ha ha. That's great to hear. Michael is again telling me that I'm right. So Kathy says no. Okay. Anna says this is exactly how I shop. Okay. Now, can I point out to you though, right? There is actually a very serious theme in here, and that is heat mapping. Heat mapping is how shops look at the traffic that comes in. So a lot of people, when they walk into a shop, you watch yourself now the next time this happens, right? You physically walk into a shop, you'll typically go to the right. I don't know why that is, and you can tell me. So MM agrees as well. Let me see. Kathy says, I have a much better system than those squiggles, but I think the man one is pretty dead on. Good stuff. Julie says a mix, and I'm more the top one there, Julie, as well. So I can be certainly that side too. But I just want to point out to you what heat mapping is. Heat mapping is when you look at how you walk around a shop and where the traffic is and where your eye line is, right? So my eye line is going to be where my eyes are, right? So you don't walk into a shop and immediately look down or immediately look up. You typically keep it at your own eye line. So when shops are deciding where to put things, like you just look at that map, there's a genuine seriousness to it. Kathy says, except the man forgets something and has to go back again after he gets home. God, you're in great form today, aren't you? You're in great form today. Lots of humor going on. See, Rick, you started that. So if you think about it, if you want to increase the sales of something, you could put it, that's premium eye space. But you know also what's very interesting data is CCTV cameras. Is typically we think about CCTV because we want to see where, just in case that there's theft happening or something that we may want to record, that can challenge that can challenge an assumption, or that can, you know, where we need to find evidence of something. But actually CCTV cameras will show you what your shoppers are doing. They will show shops where people are going. Why do you think? All right, why do you think? And I know a lot of you will already recognize this. Pop it in the chat. If you're in agreement, or if you have any things like this that you've spotted before. Why is it that milk and bread and yogurt and everyday necessities or essentials, why are they at the back of the shop? Just going to give you, let's just hear what you say there in the chat. Why are they at the back of the shop? Now, many of you will know, but many of you may not have spotted this. Why is it at the back of the shop? Again, it just, you know, particularly ties in here with with this heat map. Why are they at the back of the shop? The answer is, of course, is to make sure that we walk past enough things so that they can attract us, to pick them up and say, oh yeah, actually I know you need to get pasta, or you know what would go lovely now in that curry, I'm going to make sure and get some fresh coriander. Pick up. So when you take a look there at the top graph there, when you think about how men do their shopping, exactly, Kathy, exactly, exactly. You have exactly right. Your comments are in there. Is that in order to direct that person who walks in and knows exactly what they want, is to send them off into different directions so that they actually look more like the one down there on the bottom. And this whole world of heat mapping, of user experience, of merchandising, one other one as well. And I see Julie and Kathy and Michael. Yep. Michael says marketing 101, drag past everything. Is unless and that's why that's the challenge then though, isn't it? That is the challenge, is how do you make sure that people are doing that online? You know, again, we can look at how companies are doing that in order to direct expenditure, but it all ties in together. But the point that I'm trying to make to you here is that how do you get in the top case, how do you get that person to weave around the shop is certainly an interesting exercise in itself. But if you think about it, so if I'm standing, right, I'm standing at the till, I'm waiting to go up and I'm waiting to get served, or maybe I'm, you know, in today's environment, maybe I'm waiting to go through the self-checkout, okay? You know that phrase, I can resist anything except temptation? Well, that is why all of the sweets, or things like safety pins, or just those like little €2 in where I am in Dublin, or $2 purchases are all left up at the top, is because while I'm standing there and I'm waiting. Now maybe I take my phone out and I distract myself that way, or maybe I'm keeping an eye on where I'm going. Is that you've got me in a pretty prime attention position, haven't you? You really have. You've got me where I am focused, and I'm just looking around and think, oh yeah, I'll just pick this up as well on the way out. I would just like a chocolate bar on the way out. So this graph, despite the fact that you may have picked it because she thought it was a little bit funny, like I actually said to her when we were going through our brief before going live, there's a genuine seriousness to this. There really is. There's a lot to take from this. Okay, now, Margaret then says, as staple goods, shops know that we definitely go through the shop to get them and pick them up, and everything else that catches our eye along the way. And they do, Margaret. But of course they would. Like, you know, if I was running a shop, I would do the same. I would absolutely do the same as well. Okay, loving all the chat and the conversation that we're having today. Please do keep it coming. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of examples of companies that have done some things really well, right? That just know how to do things really, really, really well, and how to advertise to women in a really great way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at those companies over on the stock viewer, and I'm going to show you an ETF as well. But before I do that, I'd love to know, what are your suggestions? What companies do you think Whether they're listed or non-listed, it doesn't matter. And whether I know them or not, it doesn't matter. I'm here as well just to hear what you have to say and the suggestions that you have. What type of companies are you aware of whereby they serve women really well? Really, really well. I can give you certainly some examples from my experience, and I'm going to show you them. Oh, Kathy says batteries in the least economical packaging possible in twos. Yeah, there you go, Kathy. There you go. Not thinking. This is where maybe some companies are not quite thinking about who's buying the batteries in the first place. So let's take a look. Hello, Space Explorers. Haven't seen you chat yet today. That's great to hear. Because the last thing you need to buy then, client the place so that they can place at the back so you can see many new things. Exactly. Okay, so let me see. Michael, you're right. There is an awful lot more to it. By the way, keep your comments coming in here with companies who you think serve the women's consumption needs very well. And I'm going to give you plenty of examples in a while. But Michael says there's lots more to it. What's at eye level? You're right. Positioning, yep. Complementary items, yes. I mean, Michael, there is such a great science to this, particularly in FMCG. FMCG is fast, F, moving, M, consumer, C, G, goods, fast moving consumer goods. It's really intriguing the way all of that works. So far, says beauty shops, and also says departmental stores. So any specific examples of either of them there, I'd be interested to see. I'm going to give you one that has an incredibly good marketing campaign. Incredibly good. And that is L'Oreal. Because L'Oreal says, what does L'Oreal say? Because you're worth it. And the reason that I think that that's a really good marketing campaign is because an awful lot of women put themselves at the bottom of the pile. And I see this like, my own mother. Oh my good God. She is incredibly good at taking care of everybody else. And probably puts herself at the bottom of the pile. So yes, indeed, when L'Oreal says you're worth it, number one, they're correct. But it's interesting how they turn that then into a consumption play, because then they say, well, you're worth it, therefore you can spend that extra piece more on shampoo or on other cosmetics. Okay, now we're starting to come in here. And there is, Anna says, Lidl are very good at serving the needs of women. Interesting, Anna. And you might just elaborate on that in the chat. It's lovely to hear that one. Margaret says, some supermarkets also pump out the smell of freshly baked bread at their entrance. I know, and it's gorgeous. Kathy says, farmers markets. I agree with you. I love the tasting ones. Do you know what the last farmers market I was at, right? And Kathy, this going back a while now. Apart from being in ones in Ireland, I was at a farmer's market in Los Angeles, would you believe? About 2 hours before I was due to leave, and walking around it. And I just thought, it's just, you're bringing me back now. It's not really relevant to what we're talking about, but you're just bringing me back. And that was a place that I had a great memory of that time. That was actually November 2019. First time that I got to see Venice Beach. I was over there working as part of a conference, and I was up in San Diego as well. Anyway, sorry, you're bringing me back there now, Kathy. That's what I'm thinking. Space says, why is there no clock inside any store? So that then you lose track of time. Look at the casinos in Las Vegas. That's when you'll see that too, Space Explorers. Sydney says, because you're worth it, exactly. Kathy says, oh, good one. Kathy, you are worth it. Of course you're worth it. Every single one of you on this call here today. Well, it's not really a call, is it? This broadcast, you're all worth it. Now, says Macy's, Target and salon and nail shops. Okay, Macy's, yeah, that's an interesting point. We'll add that into the list. Do you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to try this out. I'm hoping that it's going to work. Okay, I'm not sure if it will. So what I'm going to do is let's see how this goes, and you can tell me your feedback, right? I'm going to show you some examples there, but what I'm going to do here is that I want to show you this video. Okay, I'm going to show you this video. Now I'm going to get out of the way, and if you can't hear it, please do tell me, right? But I'm really hoping that you do. This is a video that is, it is by Procter & Gamble, and it's one that I remember seeing at a marketing conference a while ago. Let's just see, right? So you tell me if you can't hear this now. Tell me in the chat if you can't hear it. Otherwise, we've got 2 minutes and 16 seconds to spend on this, okay? Let's go.
谢谢。不错那种感觉。
E aí, gatinha? Tu tá indo pra onde? Tu tá indo pra onde?
大赛马上要领进了。我们说的很对，儿子，你行啊，你可以的。
P&G, proud sponsor of moms.
Isn't that just the loveliest video ever, isn't it? Isn't it just the loveliest video ever? I think that is, I think that it creates a really strong message, and it's one that it's one that I've referred to, or one that I've seen a number of times. And if you actually go on and you take a look at that YouTube and you look at the chat there, people always talk about how they get emotional by looking at that, and it's just about exactly yeah. It's a really amazing video, because it just points out. The theme, of course, is all around Olympic athletes, but there's a range of those videos as well that they have. So it's really lovely, and that is an example. Margaret also says, "Wow, yeah, it's an amazing video, isn't it?" Michael, you're crying, are you? Yeah. It's interesting. If you look actually at the comments on that video on YouTube, you will see that it's more men have that reaction. So an example of a company like Procter & Gamble that understands, that truly understands who its market is. And like, this is where we now want to move into looking at the investable side of this, is that is an example of a company that does this very, very well. And there are others, right? There are others. Now, by the way, there are also times when, like, you know, there's been marketing campaigns where you think, seriously, did you not understand your market? Seriously, did you not understand it? But just a couple of other ones in here. Verizon, for example, what they did was they invited, first of all, they conducted a huge amount of market research around who does the buying of telecommunication services. And guess who that is? Exactly. We already know that from our research, but they actually went on and they really looked at who is involved in doing that. And what then they did was that then they, from that market research, then they continued iterating all the time to make sure that the hub, that's what they called it, that the hub of services that they offered were particularly focused in on women. Kathy says that's because men love their mamas. Yes, they do, Kathy. That is for sure. Another company there, Nike. And of course, we all know that Nike has been, do you call it Nike or Nike? Because there was one day I was here and I was talking about what I call Etsy, and people are telling me afterwards that I should have been calling it Etsy. So you can tell me whether I'm doing this all wrong or not, but I consider it Nike anyway. Nike had the better for it. Now it's funny when I looked at this. So the better for it was all around enabling people to be understanding of was all around, you know, female empowerment and the impact that by sport can have in your mental health, and all of the great women that we have in sport, etc. But you know what it is that if you say that word quickly, better for it, or words quickly, is that it looks like better fit. Because if you type it Nike, says Kathy. Okay, thanks, Kathy. If you type it into Twitter, and by the way, while you're on Twitter, if you put in hashtag Fantastic Female Fridays, I'll make sure that I find you as well. But if you put in that hashtag better for it, it looks like better fit. It was actually very, very, very clever. And of course, fitness, fit, you know, Nike fitting clothes and so on like that too. Now, also when you look at Adidas and Under Armour, they're also two brands that truly understand that a huge amount of sports clothes that are bought by women who are participating in whatever sports they might be or going to the gym or whatever. But in addition as well is that there's an awful lot of, going back to your point there, Mommy, or Kathy, about men that love their mamas, is that there's an awful lot of mamas are taking care of the clothes for their sons as well. So it's not just for women, but as in, you know, adult women, but an awful lot of guys, they actually go shopping with their mamas too. Yeah, Julianne said, yeah, that's the thing, I call it Nike. So thank you. Thank you for that. Right. Now, there's also as well a big drive towards women in STEM. And you can see that there's a lot of companies that are investing a lot of resources into that. And I'd love to talk to you about that on a future episode. Will you please make sure to subscribe to the channel so that the next time that we have a Fantastic Female Fridays episode, which is going to be every month, that you're here for, will you make sure and do it? Please do make sure and do it, because I really enjoyed this audience. I love running the show. I really do. And I really hope that you will be here. So please do subscribe to the channel. You'll also get all the other shows as well. There's lots of others. Like I said, there's Trending Thursdays, and there's the Hot Stocks panels, and there's the summits. There's loads of things that happen on this channel. But there will be Fantastic Female Fridays every month, as well as the other show that I have, which is the ESG and Tech Show. So please do make sure and subscribe to the channel. And if you could, I would really appreciate if you like this video as well, to make sure that other people can find out about it. So before I head on over to the VectorVest system, can I also talk to you about one other company? And this is Bumble. Bumble is, Kathy says, yes, that sounds good. Bumble is also a different sort of a dating app. Now, I was talking to somebody just a little while ago about their experience of this. Now, I'd come across this in a documentary on a flight when I used to fly all around the place, which I haven't done now in quite some time. So Bumble is a dating app where, unlike Tinder, this is up to the woman to make the first move in. So they within the first 24 hours. And it basically is more kind of how would I describe this now? It is giving an online experience in the dating world where the odds are stacked more so in the female capacity. Now, I haven't been on any dating apps, but certainly online dating came about pretty much a good bit after I met, very gratefully, the love of my life. So I don't have any experience of these. But what it is interesting though is when I looked at that documentary, it is interesting just to see about how the when you really do stack the odds in one demographic's favor or one gender's favor, how obviously you offer an entirely different unique selling point, but also how it can attract certain people who maybe are interested in using these dating apps for appropriate reasons is all I'm going to say on that. So that is also another company. So we've seen Bumble, we've seen Under Armour, we've seen Procter & Gamble, like I've shown you there. And also, of course, I'm also going to refer there to Macy's and Target, just after, I think it was said that. So now let's move on over here to the VectorVest system. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, let's head over here now, and let's take all of what we've been talking about throughout the past 49 minutes. Where does the time go on the show? I just don't know. I don't know where the time goes. Somebody just takes it away, because really the amount that we can cover in the show is really brilliant, but it just, time flies. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead on over here to the viewer tab. Okay, going to go in here into the viewer tab, and then I'm going to go over here to stock viewer. Okay, now in here, for any of you that's unfamiliar, this is a list of companies, and this database here includes 8,747 stocks. Okay, this is just the US database. For any of you that aren't familiar with VectorVest, VectorVest is a software. It's portfolio management and stock analysis software, whereby you can do three things. You can examine the market, the entire stock market, in terms of market timing. That is that tab right up there. So you can examine that. So is now a good time to get in? Is now a good time to get out? Should I stay in? Should I stay out? Answering those types of questions to manage your risk. And then the second thing that VectorVest does really well is allow you to analyze individual stocks, which I'm going to help you to do now. And number three is that it also helps you screen the entire stock market for stocks with specific characteristics that you might want, so that you can tailor your experience of investing according to your own style. Just in case any of you aren't familiar. And yes, can I just ask there, if anybody wants a trial of the software, can I just ask the guys back in HQ, Possibly Joey, I think, might still be there. Can I just ask there, Joey, would you mind popping a link into the chat for anybody who wants to try the software, that they can do that, they can just get straight in. Thank you, really appreciate that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a watch list. Okay, I'm going to head on over here. I'm going to create a watch list. Okay, I'm going to create a new watch list, and I need to add it to a group. Of course, I should do that. So I'm going to go to my watch lists. Here we go. And I am going to create this watch list, and let's call it FFF for Fantastic Female Fridays. And in here, I'm going to call this watch list companies that suit women. Consumers. Okay. So in here, let's head on in here now, and let's take a look at the types of companies that we've been talking about. So let's add Bumble. Here we go, Bumble. But thank you very much indeed. I see. So for anybody that wants to try out this software, all you need to do is click on the link there that you can see. Michael, yes, Joey is the best techie. In fairness, he is multi-talented, and that is just one. Okay, now, so that is Bumble. I'm going to add in here Procter & Gamble. PG is sticker code. Okay, there we go. There is Procter & Gamble. And I'm also going to add in here, yeah. Okay, and then I'm also going to add in here Target. Okay, Target. Let's say I'm also going to add in here Nike. Okay. And who else did we say? Oh, we also said Under Armour. Okay, and I need to check now, is Adidas listed in the US? Adidas. Yes, it is. Now, this is going to be it's the ADR, which means it's the American Depository Receipt. Okay, here we have. Now we have Adidas as well. Now, like I said to you, I also have an ETF here that I want to look at, and that is Annie, right? I just did a quick search here, right? Just did a quick search for consumer-based ETFs, because if women manage the consumption of if they manage about 85% of the consumption of the world, well then consumption-based ETFs are naturally enough going to be of interest here as well. This is the biggest one in terms of total assets. So this is the biggest one in the world by some distance, actually, by some distance over here. XLP is a consumer staples select sector spider fund. So this is clearly being run then by State Street, and this here, the assets in this is $11 million. Yeah. So far this year it's been up 5.68%. But look down here, First Trust consumer staples up 15%. Look at this one here, the Invesco small cap consumer staples. Small cap are smaller companies investing in managing staples. They are at up 24% this year. Very, very striking. I'm going to take the first one there, XLP, because it is the biggest one. XLP. Okay, there we go. Now that we've understood the theme, and we did the same, by the way, we did the same with gender diversity last time, is you need to understand the theme before you really start deciding what you want to invest in or not. Now, interestingly, what jumps out at me here, by the way, what are your comments on this watch list? Any more stocks you want me to add in? Pop them into the chat. Please do. I'll happily analyze them for you. Anything else at all, pop them into the chat there, and I will do that. Or if there is, if you have any comments about the stocks that we include in here or anything else at all, pop them in. By the way, that is exactly what I'm here and what I want to direct around. So I'm noticing here Bumble has got a sell recommendation. Okay, so what I can see is that, first of all, I can see that Bumble here has a price of $47, but a value of $13.91, which is quite low. It's not the value itself is low, the value relative to the price is low. I can see over here RV, RS and RT. This is telling me relative value is the long-term price appreciation potential. I can see here that is under 1, so a below 1 is unfavorable. I can see here that relative safety. So relative safety is the consistency and predictability of financial performance. I can see that is down here at 0.65, which is again below 1. But also this one is telling me that I get a sense that the stock Bumble has been falling in recent times. The reason I'm telling you that is that if it's below 1, well then it means that the magnitude of the share price, first of all, the direction of the share price is probably declining. So if it's at 1, it means it's flat. But if it's below 1, it means it's declining, as in going down, or else that the increase is losing pace. I'm guessing if it's down as far as 0.65, it's been falling significantly here. Okay, so overall, these 3 metrics summarized using an algorithm in VST is telling me that Bumble as a share has below average VST, value, safety, and timing. Okay, so I am just going to take a look at the graph. Right, let me just take a look at the graph. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but maybe I'm wrong. BMBL, Bumble, yeah. There we go. You see, so therefore you can see here how it has been declining, and so it has a sell recommendation. So I'm going to take that off my list. You see, here's what is so important, and this is why, as I say, you need to understand the theme, but then you need to understand what's investable. Is that it looks to me like Bumble is well able to achieve a very, like, it's able to open up, it's able to deal with a very significant market need. There's no doubt about that. The fact that it's here, the fact that it's in existence, the fact that it has users, the fact that it is listed on the stock market, it's telling us that there is a need there. From an investable point of view though, VectorVest has identified that it has a sell recommendation based on all of those 3. So I'm going to take it out of my watch list. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take it out, delete the item. Now, let me now go over and let me take a look, for example, at let's take a look at Target. Target now is offering a very different point of view here. So I can see Target, price is $232.70. The value, on the other hand, is much higher. Now, that is, of course, based on a VectorVest estimate arising from earnings, inflation rates, and interest rates. Okay, and inflation. That's particularly been getting the headlines over the past period of time. So you can see here the difference here in between price and value. So it's quite significant there. Now look at these 3. Above 1, above 1, above 1. So the long-term price appreciation potential is significantly above 1. Space Explorer says about WPG. Great. Okay, let me just have that in there. Okay. Let's take a look and let's just see where that one falls in. Interesting. Interesting there. Yeah, that's 2 different stories there, Space Explorers. That's interesting. It's an interesting contrast. So up here in Target, back to Target here, I can see the long-term price appreciation potential is above 1 and significantly so. I can see the relative safety here that is above 1 and significantly so. And again, the same with RT. I'm guessing if I go over and I take a look at Target, because this is above 1 and significantly above 1, I'm guessing that this has been rising quite over the last period of time. Let me go on over here to a graph. Let me pull up Target, TGT. Aha, see? So you might be saying to me, okay, Susan, this is great, but how do I know what stocks are going to keep on rising? So this is how I find RT can be really, really, really helpful. RT is, let me remind you, right? RT looks at the stock's direction. Above 1 is favorable, below 1 is unfavorable. Second thing it looks at is the stock moving significantly higher or significantly lower? So that is the magnitude. And then the third thing is the dynamics. Is it super, super volatile, or is it just, rocking and rolling up in a simple way? So here I can see, in the case of Target, I can see here that the trend, the momentum in the stock is certainly to the upside. And yeah, I might have, again, we'd be getting right into technical analysis now if I was to really delve into this, but very, very simply, RT can be very, very helpful for that. By the way, completely for free, if I could ask the team at VectorVest, please, if anybody wants to get a free stock analysis on any stock at all, okay, you can get up to 9 of them for free. Obviously, if you have a subscription to VectorVest, you can get unlimited for an unlimited period of time. But if you want to take a stock that I've been talking about today, or that that you might consider, and you want to get a stock analysis report completely for free, as well as specifically look at the RT, the relative timing. If I could ask there, the guys, I'm still thinking that it's one of the guys. I'm still thinking. By the way, Joey, is it you behind VectorVest Live? Is that who you are? Because I'm just checking. And if it's not, do you want to, whoever it is, you might just tell us who you are, because I don't just want to refer to the guys generally, because they're all great guys. Okay, thank you. First of all, the free stock analysis link is up there. And you might tell us. I think it's you, Joey. All right, but you might just tell us whether it's you or if it's someone else. Oh, okay. Yes, it is. So, by the way, can we do this, right? Because he doesn't know I'm going to do this. Can we all just put a message in the chat to say hello, Joey, and whatever else you want to add in there? I'm just going to say hello, Joey. Thank you so much indeed for taking great care of this show, for always checking in advance to make sure that I'm all as well, and really appreciate it, what you do for us, me, and the team at Fantastic Female Fridays, as well as what you do for all of us on all of the various different shows. So just want to send those good vibes to him, since we know that he's there. And if anybody else wants to add in a message, now would be a good time. Okay. So that's the first thing that I would look at here is RT, is how can we analyze or look and check to see where the momentum is, right? So that's target. Let's look at another one. Let's look here, Nike. Let me pop on over here to Nike. Okay. How about that stock? Where is the momentum there? Hi, Todd. Great to see here that you're here with us as well. So let me take a look down here at Nike. Not liking what I see here now. Well, first of all, I can see a lot of volatility. But look here, is that as soon as this crossed under 1, then you can see that we're looking at a particular amount of downside there to the bottom down here. Okay, now let me go on there. Let's take a look. What else have we got over here? Adidas. So you see here Adidas. Let's take a look. Let's pop on down. Here. Now, I told you already before that this isn't the when I say it's not the real sorry, I've just seen Michael's comment here. Joey gets less abuse from Susan than Glenn. Yes, absolutely, that is the case. I don't send abuse to Joey at all. I don't send it. But then again, kind of Glenn and Joey have their own kind of bromance going on as well, so I don't get involved in that. Okay, here in the case of Adidas, you see the way that there's lots of gaps in between the two. This is, I'm expecting here that the volume on this stock would be quite low. If I was going to buy Adidas, I'd be buying it on a European stock exchange where it's actually listed. Okay, so I'm not going to spend any more time looking at that. Now let's take a look at Procter & Gamble. Let's take a look at it solely from an RT point of view. Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble. It's Target. It's Adidas. Yeah. Okay, here is where RT is going to be very, very useful for you. Going to be very, very useful indeed. Because you can see here the way you can see that the stock, it's basically, this is what's called trading through a channel. I'll tell you how I know that is that it's like drawing a tunnel. Okay, if I was to draw another, okay, well, do you know what? It's probably easier if I go from here, right? So you can see here, right? Look at that. This is where the market is trying to figure out. Actually, no, I can bring it back. Bring it back here. You can see here's where the market has been trying to figure out where is it going to go. Is it going to break up? Is it going to break down? And if I was to continue those lines, at the moment it looks like the share price here of Procter & Gamble is more so heading downwards. And that's what RT is telling me. I don't have to draw any lines, do I, to see that? Because RT is telling me that that the direction, the magnitude, and the dynamics of the share price at the moment are heading southwards. Okay, so you can see here the way it's falling down here a little bit. So what I would do is that if I was interested in investing in Procter & Gamble in the very, very short period of time, then I would be saying that that I'd be nervous, right? I would be nervous in the short term. If this keeps going down, if that breaks below 1, I do not buy stocks. Unless there's been a very rare occasion when I have bought stocks when I see the RT below 1. Very rare occasion. And I spoke about that on the Hot Stocks panel, for example, last October. Last October was when I did that last, because we were dealing with a very different market during the summer. But anyway, generally I would only buy if I see the RT above 1, or at least the RT on its way up to breaking above 1. So far I'm happy with Target. I'm happy with Target from a short-term point of view, but because I can see the RT here is good and solid and strong. But now the question is there value? Is there actual value here? And the first thing I'm going to look at is earnings. Because remember, money goes where money grows. I learned that from the man himself, Steve Chappell, long time ago. Money goes where money grows. And you can see here with Target, you can see here that the money, or that there has been an increase, a significant increase there in their earnings back here in May. And broadly speaking, let's pull this over the last 5 years. Look at that. Look at that beautiful looking graph, huh? Look at that. You see, money goes where money grows. You can see here that the company has been earning more and more and more. Now, I am interested though to see, is that the steepness, is that a word? Steepness. How steep? How the measure of steepness? You know what I mean? Is that I'm noticing here is that the share price here has shown a much steeper increase as opposed to this one, which has shown less so. So I would want to check one more thing, and I just want to check the PE ratio. I say the word ratio. People always say that to me. They say, particularly when I'm in Europe, like continental Europe as opposed to Ireland, Europe. They say, oh, it's that I say it very fancy. I love the sound of the word ratio. So I'm going to look here at the PE ratio, because this is the amount of money that people are happy to pay in exchange for $1 of earnings. So the PE ratio here in the case of Target hasn't actually been extremely high. Hasn't been very, thanks Kathy, thank you for confirming that. It hasn't been very high. Like, I mean, to have a PE ratio of, where's this, back here, I need to take off my freehand line here. I'm going to delete that line out because I don't want to confuse things. This here, create a Susanism, go for it. Michael, I need some time to think about Susanisms. Glenisms, he's got years of training. I'm still working on it. So here you can see the PE ratio here, 17. We can see, but sorry, Michael, actually, you know what? My Susanism is that you will always see me wear the glasses. That's it. I'm wearing the Susanism. The PE ratio here is a 12.7. I mean, all of these would be very reasonable. Anywhere it's below 20, it would be very reasonable. But there you can see that the steepness, I'm accurate in my observation here, is that investors are now paying more for the earnings of Target than they have done over the past 5 years. Let's look at the past 10. Look here. Look over here. Here's when they were paying 23 times. Now the share price did rise. I mean, it rose considerably a little bit after that, but then as you can see here, the share price was falling. Then of course investors decided to pay less for it, even though the earnings were rising at the time. But all of this was 15, 16, 17, and then from there, it's really taken off. Particularly, I'd say, the pandemic has been extremely kind to Target, based on the amount of expenditure that was being invested in companies like Target. Well, I suppose you wouldn't quite say expenditure that was being invested, consumption that was happening at the time. Kathy wants to know, do I sleep in them? No, I don't, Kathy, but that's the only time I don't wear them. She talked about the sunglasses. So on that note, we started off the show being half an hour. I think my first ever episode might have been half an hour. Ever since then, I'm just here chatting to you about these various different ideas instead, because it is important that we give this due consideration. But also, it is important that I spend time here talking to you and with you about the way in which you interact with this. So, on that note, I am now just going to take you on a quick summary of what we did today. Is that we started off by having a chat around where is it that the world's consumption power gets invested. So I'm going to bring it back over here to our camera scene. And that is where we looked at this from a variety of elements, right? We looked at this from the point of view of where the consumption power is, why it might be that it is disproportionately women. I distinguished the difference between consumption power and earning power, and particularly looked at consumption power both from the money in their pockets as well as the influence on it. Then we looked at where the marketing influence comes from and where it is or how it is that women could have disproportionate impact on that as well, extending the view and the nuance around the influence. Then we thought about, how does our experiences compare to that? And we had a great chat with that around that as well over here. Then after that, then we considered what companies are really answering that call. And I showed you the video of Procter & Gamble. Which is a tearjerker, no doubt about it. But after that, it is important that after you look at your own individual experience, or you look at the theme, or you think about the business case, or you think about your own experience, or the macroeconomy, look at the investability. And that was where we spent the last part of the show, is that when we do take a list of stocks, like there in the case of Target, or like in the case of Bumble, or like in the case of the others, even the ETF there that I mentioned to you, it's important that you analyse from a technical point of view as well as from a value point of view. Specifically though, I would always check, if you're deciding to go into a stock or not, check the RT. And we've all got, you all have access to 9 free stock analysis reports at any stage anyway. And we gave you the links for that. And of course, if you'd like a trial of the software, you can avail of that at any stage. Please do like the video if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. Keep the conversation going over there in the comments. I know that the chat's going to close after this, but the comments will be over there. We'll be vigilant to them. And I really hope that you join me for the next episode of Fantastic Female Fridays. My name is Susan HayesCulleton. It's been a pleasure. See you everyone. Have a lovely weekend and every best wish.